Continuing debate, the honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
I'll be splitting my time with the member for Chatham-Kent, Leamington, and happy to speak about this concurrent motion on the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. And some of the people that are tuning in right now or been following the debate may want to know, where is this place? It's north of Iran. It's an area north of Iran, south of Russia, in between the Black Sea and the Caspian Seas. I don't know if that helps, but it's a landlocked region populated by ethnic Armenians who have lived in this region for many hundreds of years. And it is an enclave that is been semi-autonomous within Azerbaijan and next to Armenia. So this was all formed, a lot of this was formed politically during the time the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And so there's a long history. There's a long history of obviously living there, but also of tensions and hopefully solutions. So as of late, there have been thousands of ethnic Armenians that are fleeing Nagorno-Karabakh for Armenia because of hostilities, because of the pressures that they've been facing in this region from the Azerbaijani military. There's been some bombardments. There has been a degradation of the Russian forces, the United Nations, the peacekeeping force there. And so this has caused some real instability. So there was a ceasefire agreement that this region's officials agreed to, and that was they would dissolve their armed forces. So the Armenians had backed up this area so they could fight, protect themselves. Well, they have agreed to the Azerbaijani military, because they have military superiority there, to disarm themselves, which essentially means they are sitting ducks. They're helpless. They are in a terrible situation, and that is why we are bringing this up as a motion to debate right now. It is important. I've heard different members from the other parties say, well, why can't we be discussing this and that? There are many issues of importance to debate, but we can talk about many issues in the House. And so right now, this is an opportunity to focus on a very serious situation that is happening in the world, and where actually many Canadians have connections, have either come from that region and are very concerned. And there are also a lot of geopolitical problems here. There's Iran is backing up Armenia, Russia is there, we have Turkey, we have a number of nations. This has a potential to really explode beyond what the situation is right now. So it is important that we have this discussion, and that Canada is at the plate to bring forth some, I wouldn't necessarily say long-term solutions, but things that would help the situation. There's been a humanitarian crisis and an influx of refugees. Now, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh, has a long history. There's been 2 major wars fought in the past 3 decades. And Azerbaijan regained control of a significant part of this region in 2020 after a conflict. There was an agreement that they would cede, Nagorno-Karabakh would cede the control of a lot of the villages around the main population, main center, main city, and that was an agreement. And then peacekeepers were brought in also. It was an agreement between the Russians and the Azerbaijani and Armenia. There was an agreement. Well, there is a reneging of this agreement, and this is causing some real serious problems. The number of displaced people is increasing, and efforts to provide humanitarian aid and shelter for those people are being seriously affected. And the situation highlights the challenges that are faced by refugees and internally displaced persons in that region, but also worldwide. We've seen that also in the Ukraine with the invasion of Russia, and that there's been many displaced people, many refugees, and so this is a terrible situation. And Canada is one of the most multi-ethnic, multicultural nations on this planet. And so there are all these connections that impact our nation. The recent conflict has resulted in casualties, and there are concerns about the well-being of the Armenian population. The exodus highlights, I don't know if Mr. Speaker, if you've seen pictures of the thousands of people fleeing this region with cars lined up, but it highlights the need for humanitarian assistance and protection. The International Committee of the Red Cross has successfully negotiated a humanitarian consensus to deliver essential aid on September 18th. Now, it's one thing for people to say things, for nations to say one thing, is another thing to actually do, and that is the concern, the actual implementation of the agreement. Because right now there is a very dire situation. There is a lack of basic necessities getting through. There is food, bread, obviously, the hygiene products, medical items. What has happened is that essentially this area is under siege. And what is a siege? A siege, going back throughout history, is when you cut off a region, a castle, an area from being able to be able to provide for itself, provide food. And so this region is now under a siege warfare, which basically is essentially the purpose is for them to surrender, to just leave the area and to the ancestral area that they've lived in for many hundreds of years, and just to leave that area for Azerbaijan, and that is of great concern. This is a very hilly area. It's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a landlocked area. There's essentially one road to get through, one major road, and that's called the Lachin corridor. And it's been in the past year or so, it's been very difficult to get aid going through this, humanitarian aid, medical supplies. And as the previous Conservative member mentioned from Halton Hills, that about 1/3 of the population is malnourished and at risk of starvation. There actually have been cases of starvation in this area. So it's imperative that we open up, that we see this corridor for food and for medical supplies to be able to open up so they can freely be able to provide for themselves. While looking at other alternative routes is fine right now, this is really the only viable solution as far as providing aid and assistance. So there's military tensions between Armenia, as I mentioned, Azerbaijan, and that there is also we're right now in the cusp of seeing military action, of moving in where there could be many thousands of deaths. Now, it wasn't that long ago that the Armenian population, who are again residing majority in this region, underwent a serious genocide. Over 1 million Armenians were killed, were sent on death marches throughout the region, where they just fell and dead from exhaustion or malnutrition. And this is in the recent past. And so our concern, it's not hypothetical. Our concern is that is a potential of another genocide happening in this area. We do not want to see this. And we're calling on the federal government to exert pressure as far as to collaborate with others in order to see this open, this corridor, and not just to be a silent partner, I was trying to say the words, but to be involved as far as to see this corridor and opened, and to see a resolution and to allow the people of Nagorno-Karabakh to have self-determination. Thank you very much.
Questions and comments? Question, commentaire. The Honourable